Hello, and welcome to The Fool and the Philosopher.
The Philosopher and the Fool.
Oh man, Linus Tech Tips, I've been watching a bunch of his videos, and he's having this contest. I was going to submit a video to it, but I think my arms are just too painful to do it. But it's like, show us your current rig, and if like the most entertaining rig that like a video that like most needs an upgrade, we'll send a bunch of parts to, and they can like build a new PC basically. And so I was thinking of like doing this video, right, where I'll describe what I had, because I can't write any script down and I can't do any editing. So I was like, okay, it has to be like a bunch of clips that I do in order and just put together, and I have to keep it all in my head, so it has to be fairly simple. So I was thinking like, so I'll be like I'm like Steve Irwin, and I'll be out in the woods, and I'll be like, all right, ladies and gents, so here good eye, gents. I'm out here in the Yukon wilderness in search of a graphics card, and I think I hear one now. And then I'd have my laptop on just in the woods somewhere, and like it's incredibly loud fan because it's broken. And then I just like, yeah, all right, crikey, look at that thing. That's a Delicus Inspirationus. That thing must be over 7 years old. And we'll take a closer look. And oh no, this one's dying. Let's just go away. It's a misery. Let's go. And then I would come into the house, and I'd have like a pen with your laptop in it, and be like, all right. Now my brother, he owns a reserve, and he said I could have this one from his zoo. So we're going to take a look at this. This is a Delicus Inspirationis 5000. Now these things are like pugs. They're very fragile. So you got to be very, very careful around them. My brother actually has sent out for, I think, 3 replacements at this point for this one. And even then, it sometimes just goes unconscious for no reason. But let's take a look at this bad boy. And then I would hit like Windows R to pull up the run menu.
Yeah.
And then like, you know how the keyboard doesn't work?
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, well, this one's scuppered. All right. And then I'd be like, oh, look at this. Now this is the mighty Alienware species from the Dell family or something.
That was before his Dell. We got that.
No, we got it. No, we got it after they were acquired.
Oh.
Be like, now these things, very fancy and but they are very delicate. Let's be careful not to startle it. And then I'd hit the power cable, and you know how it dies immediately if the power is on? Like, well, great. Just show
I have to use my Switch now.
Just show the laptops I'm working with.
Yeah.
I thought that'd be a pretty good video, but I'm just in too much. Like, the testing out the computer yesterday was just a bit too much pain I was like... Yeah. Like, I'm still in pain today from just doing stuff yesterday, so I was like, I can't make this video. But
yeah.
But I thought if I share it, then that's good enough for me.
Yeah. The speaking of accent while trying to do a script's really hard, I found.
Yeah, especially if you don't have the script. Like, just trying to do it there, like, good day, mate.
Trying to ad-lib with the accent.
Yeah, that's hard.
So, yesterday, I have a very rude blue screen, like crude blue screen, like literally just the walls in this room.
Yeah.
Is what I'm using, and I got like a clear wall, and I'm standing on my bed and have the camera set up.
You should use my room. Mom says they're green.
I've actually ordered a piece of green cloth. I mean, my lighting's terrible, but who cares?
I have a Ninja Turtles blanket I could lend you.
Anyways, so I was doing this thing, which is, I remember like 2 weeks, not 2 weeks, like maybe a month or more ago, I saw this ad for the American elections.
Yeah.
And I just thought at the time, like, you have no power here. Like, Gandalf the Grey. And then I decided, I'll just write that idea down. Then so I'm standing on my bed, and like, I do a little spiel of like, American politician trying to get elected as president. I was like, well, that's the most Canadian sounding American president. So I tried to do an American accent. It took me forever.
Boy, howdy, chili and corn dogs.
But, so, I basically put it together, I haven't put it together, but I've got all the film stuff, which is, so I have like a woodcutter's hat, and I like go onto YouTube, and I look up a video of maple syrup pouring. Because that's like one of the most Canadian things I could think of.
You know, yeah, sorry, keep going.
And then an ad shows up with like the American whatever, and I'll go like, you have no power here. And I didn't add this, but I want to add as a side note, which is, and we'll annex Canada. And I'll go, flying back and get hit by the white light or whatever.
Ugh.
Just try to get that whole scene.
Just show like a piece of paper that says like the plot of Infinite Jest. Just
oh yeah.
Like just literally the plot of Infinite Jest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, like Western Americans and Western Canadians sound fairly similar, and Northern Americans and Southern Canadians sound fairly similar. So there is some overlap.
Yeah. No, we do have like some similarities too. I've noticed some Americans I've talked to that we have on the Discord with Romney. Yeah,
there's definitely some overlap in some places. Like a Texan and a Newfie aren't going to sound the same, but
no, definitely not.
But
what is that, like Midwest area of the States? They sound exactly like Albertans.
Yeah, it's like Wyoming or something, or Minnesota, or I don't know. They very similar. And is it might be Minnesota. But I don't really know American geography that well. But I do know
people were in the Holistic Detective season 2.
Yeah, those kind of people. Yeah, I think that was Minnesota, but I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. But that's sort of like, would you like some pop? Mm-hmm. Oh, lovely. Let's head over here. I got some delicious soda pop for you and a candy bar.
Just trying to say all your American words.
Well, but I'm trying that like weird Canadian accent, that like sort of Albertan, Ontario sort of like very friendly and light and like stilted almost.
Yeah. Wasn't because they, even with the question stuff, like you get louder as you go towards the end?
That's in the States, yeah.
Oh, I thought the States start loud and go quiet.
Oh yeah, sorry. No, in Canada we start loud and go quiet. In the States you end loud.
Oh.
So in Canada it's like, get your attention and then talk to you normally. In the States it's like, blah, blah, blah. Were you paying attention?
Ah.
Like, that's not actually what it is. It's just, it seems rude sometimes.
Yeah. Well, that's why Canadians are polite.
But up here, we talk like this. We got a very, very stilted accent.
Stilted?
Yeah, like, our words are very clipped, I guess. Mm. We talk like this up here. You're going down to the creek, saw a moose there.
Yes, very flat. Although that might also just be us.
I'm not flat. I have range. Yeah. And then in NWT they talk like this. Hey buddy, how's it going?
Oh yeah, you have to talk with your teeth closed.
Yeah. It's like, you want to go camping with me? I can show you a nice camping spot.
Oh, is there a nice high windy spot to camp?
No, it's a very secret spot where nobody will be able to find us.
Is it obscured by a cloud of bugs?
Yes, there is bugs everywhere, Mr. Potter.
No, now you just turn into what's-his-face.
Alan Rickman.
Yes.
I am Alan Rickman from the NWT.
He's not from the NWT.
But he could be. He sounds like that. I assume. I only know one person from the NWT. Yeah.
You know when you look at a map of Canada, and then you realize that there's like a huge amount of Canada you don't ever think about?
Like Nunavut?
Yeah.
Nunavut's like half of Canada, I think.
Well, Nunavut and the two provinces to the east of Alberta.
What, like Ontario and Quebec, or Manitoba?
There's Manitoba and another one. I can't remember what it's called.
Ontario?
No, it's not Ontario.
Saskatchewan?
Yeah, Saskatchewan. Manitoba and Saskatchewan.
Oh, I don't know if... My Canadian geography is pretty bad as well.
Yeah. Well, exactly. You don't even think about them.
But you know, Nunavut is like massive.
Yeah, it's huge. I was looking at a map of it. And have you looked up the populated areas of it?
I imagine it's like Iqaluit. That's it.
It's a few of the islands and like one part of the landmass.
But like those islands in Nunavut are like Nunavut's surface area is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Or not surface area. It's what do you call it? It's border or whatever. Mm-hmm. Its perimeter size is absolutely absurd.
Most of Western Northern Canada, if you look at the population centers, there's like these tiny dots.
Yeah.
And then you like look up say spreads for like the rest of Canada, and it's like, oh, so that's what population spreads look like. Okay, Then you look at the States, it's like, whoa.
I've been watching a bunch of these economic videos from a YouTube channel called Economics Explained.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever seen him.
Nope.
He's Australian, but he was talking about the Canadian economy, and he had this map where like the American, like it showed North America, and like the USA had like an American flag over it, and Canada had a Canadian flag over it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it was a mistake or laziness or what. But he included Alaska in Canada, and it actually looked way better. Like,
as all good things should be.
We should actually just take Alaska because it actually like it belongs. It really should be ours.
Okay, well, can we give them like a little piece of Alberta?
Like, we can give them, like, I don't want to give them anything, but Alaska's ours. Or even Japan has a better claim to Alaska than the United States, I think.
Well, they did get those islands for a short while.
Yeah, well, they conquered them during World War II. But
yeah.
But I think that, like, and also the Alaskan Panhandle is ridiculous because it basically takes away a bunch of our coast.
Yeah.
It's like...
That's probably the reason why the United States just wanted it, is for the coastal control.
Well, they claimed, like, I think it was World War II as well. They're like, we need the ability to defend.
Yeah.
On the other hand, when he was talking about the Canadian economy, being neighbors with the United States has this interesting benefit where... So Australia is a smaller country than Canada.
Yeah.
I think it has a lower population, and I think they have less money than us. Like in total, like per person, I think they're actually quite rich in Australia. But
yeah,
like Canada has a higher GDP than Australia or something like that.
Yeah.
But Australia spends 50% more than Canada on military. Because Canada basically slacks like crazy on military.
Well, yeah, we got the States.
Yeah, we're like, hey, yeah, you wanna attack us?
And here's the other thing, right? Like, if Canada ever, like, somehow loses the States, we got Russia nearby.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, Russia, wanna be friends?
We're ready to switch loyalties in the blink of an eye.
You, like, say that jokingly, but actually...
We're in position to. I don't know if we would.
Yeah.
Because we're Commonwealth as well, and we'd get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
The Queen would not approve.
Oh, no.
And
one of the freaky things is, like, I know Australia's big, and I've said this before, but New Zealand's bigger than the UK.
Is it?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't even think New Zealand was a real country, you know? It's just
I thought it was like a tiny little island or like some sub thing of Australia, but no, they're their own country.
Yeah. No, I know they're their own country, but yeah, it's... You don't think about them that often. They're...
Yeah, well, there's that whole thing like that...
Maps without New Zealand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they actually have a significant population and, like, workforce and...
Yeah, and they've got the, like, most warlike people on the earth there.
The Zulu?
No, the Maori.
Huh.
The Zulu are in Africa.
Right.
They've got the
Actually,
Maori.
if you want a big country, Africa... I mean, it's not a country, but Africa as a continent's huge.
Yeah, well, it's the biggest.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like, I don't think there is... Like, try to think of a more violent people than the Maori. Like, not the modern Maori, of course, but, like, historically. And also, the modern Maori, though, still, like, they still have, like, hakas at their wedding and whatnot. Like, they're pretty intimidating people.
They're like the Aztecs?
Like, the Aztecs were, I don't know if they were, like, they were almost more politically brutal. Like, they just did stuff to keep other people in check and also to stop, you know, the sun from falling out of the sky or whatever.
Stopping global warming.
Yeah. The Apache were very brutal, actually.
The Minoans, the people who eradicated the Mycenaeans?
Oh yeah, like ancient peoples. Yeah, I guess like there's a lot of brutal ones back then.
So there's the Minoans and the Mycenaeans, and they're the precursors to the Greeks.
Yeah.
And we're not exactly sure what happened to the first group. I think the first group was the Mycenaeans. I get them mixed up very easily. But anyway, so the first group like settles on this group of islands, and they have like this one big island with their capital. And at some point, their whole population was wiped out, and the second group moved into their houses and just started living there and put new art and like new architecture inside the buildings.
The Maori did that with the Moriari.
Ah.
They actually killed them all off, I think, basically.
Yeah,
and ate them.
Oh.
And, like, yeah.
Well, I don't know, but it's believed that the Mycenaeans and the Minoans, like their whole battle could have been the conflict that the story of the Siege of Troy is based off of. Because they landed on this island. The whole island was basically like one large city. And they basically invaded it and went through.
The Minoans were obsessed with bulls, right? Like they had
Not bulls, Taurochs. Or
right.
Aurochs, sorry.
Aurochs. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they had like statues of them everywhere or something.
Well, yeah, the statues symbolized their manhood ritual, which is absolutely absurd. So they had these...
Tame a bull.
They had these underground arenas. And this is where believes also the legend of the Minotaur comes from, is them.
Yeah.
They had these big underground arenas, which is like this large gallery basically for a auroch to charge down. And so the manhood ceremony, and it's also a game you played after being a man, just like to prove how manly you are again, is you would stand there and have one of these giant bull monsters charge you. And you'd grab its horns, vault over its body, and slap it on the butt as you went over it.
So, like, their ritual was like a rodeo.
Yeah, it is vault, but with, like, bulls that are big enough that their foot can, like, encompass your whole chest.
Yeah, that's...
There's, like, a statue that they have of, like, boys doing that, basically, like, grabbing onto its horns, and another one's, like, jumping off its back.
It's a little spookazies.
The precursors of the Romans, I think, might have also come from those islands, or different, like, islands in that area.
Oh, sorry. Okay, come back. Precursors of the Mayans?
Romans.
Oh, the Romans. Okay.
Yeah. Like, the Romans, I mean, there's the son of Rome who, like, fed off the wolf or whatever.
Romulus and Remus.
Yeah, Romulus and Remus. But there's the actual civilization that came before them had, like, really weird necropolises, I think. They, like, their tombs were inside their houses. And so, like, their houses just got more and more crypt-like.
Yeah, well, that was, like, the Romans even did that. They had the Wall of Ancestors in their houses.
Yeah, these people had, like, a giant sarcophagus of stone, I think, that would be in their houses. And then the Romans came from, I'm not exactly sure how. Although, there's apparently, I think it's in, like, the area of India. Like, there's a lot of countries in that area.
Yeah.
But there's, like, one culture which is, like, they literally mummify their family members and then, like, have them sit in a chair in their house.
Yeah, or they, well, there's one where they put them in the walls, I think. And then the houses, you just keep, like, expanding the house.
Yeah, I think this one is, like, you leave them in their room. Like, you mummify them inside their room, and then they just stay in there. And, like, so you can actually, like, oh, let's go visit, like, oh, yeah, that's my grandmother. And she's, like, staying there on the chair, and it's, like, this mummified corpse.
It's getting really crowded in here. We need to put an expansion on.
Yeah.
You can have little tea parties.
That's getting a little dark.
Gather all your ancestors around. And would you like some tea, great-grandmother? Oh, yes, here you go.
Did I tell you about the civilization that was next to the ancient city?
What, Ur?
Yeah, Ur. They founded a second city by this cradle civilization?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's weird. So like around the, like a little bit after Ur, there was like quite a few cities going on, and that was like when religion was starting to form. And so the religious leaders and like the leaders of the city were very interlinked at that time. And one of the weird things that happened is basically for a very short period they had a huge amount of peace in those cities, which is like kind of weird because there's like a huge amount of war before and afterwards. And it's because the families of the priests it's like one big family was all the priests, and they basically went to every single city and converted them all to the same religion. Right.
And then they just kind of took them over?
Yeah, well, they like controlled about 50% of the city, the priests.
Right.
But then like a few generations later, they all deviated and stopped liking each other as much, and then war started up again. It was just like there's a family basically that had control over the cradle of civilization for a few generations.
Yeah, it's It's amazing sometimes, like when you see, like, you know, the Medicis or the Rothschilds or this family, I guess, like just the amount of what are you doing?
Checking my phone's charge.
Where was I going with that? I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of powerful families, anyways. So I watching this Economics Explained guy.
Yeah.
He was this is me piecing together a bunch of his videos. So any faults are not his, they're mine for misremembering and whatnot. But in 1900-ish, roughly, the average working person worked about 60 hours a week.
Okay.
What are you doing?
Just adjusting wiring and stuff.
Like scraping the microphone.
Sorry.
All right. Anyways, so I was watching Economics Explained, and so this is from memory and a bunch of his videos pieced together. So any mistakes are mine, not his. But so in the 1900s, the average working week was about 60 hours of work. And now this was in the United States. And in the United States today, the average working week is something like 40 hours. But back then, they didn't have nearly as much of a commute. So when you actually look at the work week in the United States, you actually add on like a little bit extra, like a couple hours, let's say. So United States might actually be more like 42, and some of those hours are unpaid because of commute.
Yeah.
On top of that, in the United States, you might sometimes be called in to work on the weekend or on Sunday. Same idea. Or you might be called to, like, asked to do unpaid overtime. Like, you have to work after work. Whereas in the 1900s, once work was over, you head back home, you're done.
Yeah.
So that's still 40 hours. And then if you're doing an extra even 10 hours a week from unpaid overtime and whatnot, you're still working less, and plus your commute and all that. However, before, I think it was 1965 or something,
Yeah.
under 25% of households were dual income, which meant almost all households, there was one breadwinner in the house, basically.
Yeah.
Starting in, I don't know when it was, 80s or 90s or something, I can't remember. Like 65% or more of houses are now dual income, which means that not only are you working, let's say, 50 hours a week in total from all your little extra tasks and whatnot, but there's actually two of you working. So that's more like 100 hours a week to keep one household going.
Yeah.
And because there's two people working full time to keep the house going, that means that at home, there's no housekeeper or what do you call it? Housemaker, which means that you go home and you have to spend a couple hours every day cleaning and cooking and sorting everything out, doing finances, all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So there was a study that found that the modern family or the modern person has about 3 hours of free time per day on average. That is if you include weekends.
3 hours a day?
Yeah, on average.
Huh.
If you add in weekends. So the idea is 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of work, 8 hours of leisure.
Yeah.
But instead, it's like, well, as he put it, 10 hours of work, 7 hours of sleep, and 3 hours of leisure, or whatever, whatever it comes down to.
Yeah.
Or like, well, 10 hours of work, 3 hours of housekeeping, 7 hours of sleep, hour of finances, and then, yeah. So we're actually, or at least the States, is kind of working more than they were before. In a lot of ways. And not only that, but in the last 15 years, the living expenses have been rising faster than the real wage, or the wage in general, yeah. Which I believe have actually been stagnant or going down. So we have this idea of so the baby boomers, they kind of like, they were the ones with the schools, and they were the ones that were the parents for the current generations that are like the millennials and whatnot.
Yeah.
They were the richest generation ever.
Yeah.
So when they're saying like, you need to have a house with like your 4-bedroom house, your 2 cars, your whatever, that is not a lifestyle like 75% of Americans can afford or something.
Well, it's just relativistically here, when I'm looking at like the job boards we have, right?
Yeah.
And so I look at a job and it's like manual layer, like $17 an hour, you can get more pay, or sometimes it's $20 an hour. Then I see something like need a bachelor degree, $28 an hour is the pay. And
so,
it's like, that's absurd.
So that was something else he talked about, which was really interesting, was schooling used to be quite cheap, but very few people did it. But then they opened it up to everyone, basically, and now it's way more expensive.
Yeah.
And if you paid for schooling, I don't quite understand the mechanics of this, but basically any time there's an expensive thing that the government subsidies, that means it is a very solid investment because the government just keeps pouring more and more money into it. So there was an example of this between like 1990 and 2008 or something, which was houses were subsidized quite heavily by the government. And so you buy a bunch of houses and the housing value just keeps going up, and people can still afford the housing because the government keeps helping them out. And
then you get a housing crash.
Then you get a housing crash. So
are we currently seeing the university crash?
Yeah, basically, if schooling became free, it could cause a university a crash, basically. So the way to counteract that, according to this guy, anyways, is to make it harder to get into schools again, because they have like 10 times the population of the United States has doubled in the same period that the amount of people in colleges has gone up 10 times.
Yeah.
And this isn't entirely so the idea of, he was talking about student loans, and a student loan is not actually a bad thing. Like, it's basically free schooling that you have to pay back. Like, it's basically like, okay, you're going to go to school, which means you're going to have a much better job than everyone else. But that means you're going to make a lot more money. So the government will give you money to go to school, because then you will bring so much value to the country that you'll be able to pay it off. So that's the idea of a student loan.
Yeah.
But the problem is that universities have sociology degrees and writing degrees and art degrees. And so if you go to school and you get your master's in history, which, look, I love history and I love the opportunity to get something like a master's in history. But when you combine that with student loans, you can never pay it back, basically. Mm-hmm. But if you went into medicine, then you can pay it back.
Yeah.
And so actually in Finland, not Finland, Australia has a very similar student loan thing compared to the United States, and very similar schooling costs to the United States. However, the size of the loan you're allowed to take out is proportional to the degree you're getting. So a doctor is allowed to take a much larger loan. Furthermore, you don't ever have to pay the loan back. Instead, once you have a job worth more than $52,000 a year, your taxes increase severely compared to people that didn't go to school. And so apparently Australia doesn't really have a crisis.
So a story I heard about like going to university and all that stuff was this. It was after World War II, which I guess is the baby boomers, right?
Yeah. Well, they were born after World War II.
Yeah. So like, not with the baby boomers, but basically like after World War II, the generation before them.
Yeah.
Like they get back in, and a few people just like go back into the workforce, start working again, and they start having kids, and then like your like brother or whatever, so goes to university and he gets an education there, and then he's like making a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
And so the baby boomers are born, and then you say to your kid, look at your uncle, like he went to university, he's got this amazing job, like go to the university and be like him.
Yeah.
And so they go to university, and then government sees like all these people with degrees, and so like get a government job, you need a degree, because like, oh, these are like the best people. So that starts getting filtered, and then there's like a bunch of jobs start appearing for people with degrees. Mm-hmm. So the guy's brother who went and got a degree was going to do the thing that made him money anyways. It's just the degree helped him do that.
Whereas now it's required.
Yeah, now it's required. But the degree was like, he had a vision. But now we're saying like, go to university is what you need. But originally people who got degrees were people who like had a vision. It's like, oh, this is a stepping stone that can help me get to my goal.
Yeah, so actually after World War II...
Whereas now it's like, you need to get a degree.
So right around after World War II, I believe, less than half of people finished high school or something. Like, it was, like, secondary education wasn't super common, let alone tertiary.
Yeah.
And going to university was the equivalent. The Economics Explained guy said, like, if you went off to university, that was the equivalent today of getting a master's or a doctorate. Like,
yeah,
it was like, well, this is big and fancy, but now it's like, it's basically high school part 2.
High school part 2 that you have to pay for.
Yeah. And now it's not all bad because it is a lot more complicated to actually do stuff these days. Like,
Yeah.
if you're you're in the 1900s and your job is like, I don't know, like a postal worker, and your job is to like lift up and put down a press or something, or like oil like that isn't necessarily as complicated as something like a middle manager, where you have to deal with a bunch of people, know how to make decisions and whatnot. But at the same time, I don't know how much universities actually prepare you for that versus experience.
Yeah. Well, I feel like these programs are offered in high school.
Yeah.
I think high school should have a massive revamp and basically make these a mandatory thing, which is quite literally being an apprentice. Like,
I don't know.
Or some.
I think that's kind of like I see the benefits.
Well, I don't mean like an apprentice as in going along and like doing some sort of apprentice work, but just like high school should actually give you like real work experience or something.
Well, they require it to graduate.
Or volunteer time.
Yeah. So that is like real work experience.
How did I graduate?
Weren't you a page?
That wasn't enough time.
Did you lie or something?
No, I think it's because I was the manager for the basketball team.
Oh. Yeah, so it's all a bit of a farce, I guess. But
I think I ran the club, and club activity counted.
Right. Well, it does teach you management and stuff, so.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's something that high schools can just fix. I don't know. Like, it seems to be I don't even know if it's a problem so much as just a reality of life. Like,
yeah.
It's just experience is very valuable. Now, the interesting thing is in Germany, they work, I don't know what it is, but it's like 12 or 1,500 hours per year, or 12 or 1,500 hours per year versus 20,000. Wait, something's wrong here. There's not 20,000 hours in a year. Versus 2,000. Yeah. Like in the States.
Yeah.
Right. And in Germany, far less of the population is has tertiary education, like college or university.
Yeah.
It's like 30% or less. But their output per hour, like output of dollars per hour, basically, is one of the highest in the world, if not the highest.
Yeah.
And part of it is German culture. So this is really interesting, actually. So first of all, they don't have the idea of customer first in Germany. So like if your customer comes in, you view them as an equal, not as like someone you should be like, oh, I'll do this for you, I'll do this for you. So it's a lot more like, hey, help me over here. It's like, no, I'm busy. Like,
we're traders. Like, you're working with a merchant.
Yeah. So and it gives them a lot more time because they don't have to like, someone wants to get in after hours on the weekend. Can you come in? It's like, no. And that means that Germans are a lot more rested and a lot less stress-free, so they're able to work more efficiently when they do work because they're not doing all this nonsense and constantly having their day chopped up.
Because they're not laughing. They're efficient with no sense of humor.
In the States, like, you know that 3 hours of freedom per day?
Yeah.
Basically, none of it lasts for more than an hour without interruption. It is not contiguous.
Oh.
Whereas in Germany, you can actually relax and like have a weekend and not just be open all the time and constantly go, go, go. Also, in Germany, if you wanted to impress your boss, so you work a bunch of unpaid overtime, like, so you work like 50 hours a week, right?
Yeah.
On your job, and you're like, hey boss, I've been working 50 hours a week. Your boss would be like, wow, you're inefficient. Because it's like,
you should get the job done.
Well, the idea is that you if you are working more, you must be slow. Because you should be able to be doing your work
in the time you're given.
In the time you're given. So Germans, when they go to work, they might only work for like 6 or whatever hours a day.
But they get done.
But they work constantly. Like in the States, they found that like 2 hours of work time is basically doing nothing, and another 2 is like meetings and stuff. Whereas in Germany, if you go to work, and then you go home. Like, you go to work, you don't have a team building exercise, you don't, like, you just go to work.
Is Germany out of debt still?
Germany is one of the only countries on Earth that has a AAA credit rating.
Yeah.
So, which I think means they basically always pay back their debt, like, immediately.
Yeah. Well, because I knew for a short while, like, Germany was a country without any debt.
Yeah. And so I don't know what other countries on Earth actually have one, like maybe China, but...
Norway?
Maybe Norway. Norway has so much money, they can probably... Like, Norway's different. They have, like, a huge reserve, basically.
Yeah, but they're probably not in debt either.
Yeah. Right, so imagine, right? There was a book in the 1800s called The Wizard King.
Yeah.
I have no idea what it's about. But the title inspired me, right? You there?
Yep.
Okay, so the title of The Wizard King inspired me. So imagine that the queen, right? After, that might be treason. The new ruler of the Commonwealth.
Yes.
Happens to be Merlin or something.
Right.
Right, he just comes, he takes over, and he's like this crystal grows through Buckingham Palace, and like this deep resonating like gong just boom throughout the Commonwealth. And Merlin strides free from the crystal and says, I will lead you now and guide you until King Arthur returns. Yeah. Something like that. Right. So Merlin is our new wizard king.
Right.
Now imagine that whatever you ask him, he can give you. So you say, can we have a cure for cancer? And he's like, well, you have to be more specific. So, okay, can we have like pancreatic cancer? And it's like, yep, here you go. Can we have a cure for this?
Have some pancreatic cancer. Oh, you want the cure for? Oh, shoot. Yeah, I need a couple of weeks to recharge.
Right. So he can't cure cancer like worldwide. He's not like, phew. But instead it's like things that you are moving towards, like he just gives to you. So it's like, can we have a cure for pancreatic cancer? It's like, yep, here you are. And then it's like, okay, now we have to manufacture this. It's like, can we have like something that's like 10 times more efficient at manufacturing? It's like, yeah, here's how you do it. And then it's like, okay. So it's not magic. It's just telling you how to do stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, but we don't have these materials. Well, this is how you get those materials. And this, or maybe he even is magic. Like, can we have a teleporter? Yeah, sure. Where do you want it to? But the thing is, right? Merlin, he likes to sleep and eat and like get on with his day. So you have like, let's say, I don't know, 5 hours of his time every day. So do you think it ends, or do you think like you're always desperate for something else? Like,
well, you've played RimWorld, right?
Yeah.
Once you get everything, like not even once you have everything, but once you're starting to get near what you want, you start doing something else.
Yeah, like there's always something more.
There's a new building to be built. There's new research to be done.
And what do you... Okay, so let's say only one person on Earth is allowed to go to Merlin, right?
Yes. And
it's you.
All right.
Okay, so you are the representative of the Commonwealth.
Okay.
The Queen has chosen you. So what is your priority here?
Oh.
And now, what about this even? What if Merlin can only do one miracle per day?
Oh, no. Well, I think that...
I want a twice as fast processing chip for my computer. I want a graphics card. Please, Merlin.
Merlin, what's the best form of Merlin? What's the best form of government?
Wizard King.
All right, next. Come back to me tomorrow.
Yep, see you tomorrow. Very busy man, got things to do. All right, so it's the second day.
Can
I have a graphics card, please, Connor? Ask Merlin for a graphics card. A 1080 will do. I don't need a big fancy one. Just give me something.
I feel like...
Can you ask Merlin to fix my arms, Connor? Please? Please?
All right. Merlin, how can we fix, what are they called? Autoimmune issues, because I think they're a lot lighter spread. Or actually, how serious are the autoimmune issues? That'd be first thing. I want to get some knowledge on the base here,
right.
Because I think a lot of depression and various other things is caused by basically the food we eat.
Yeah, but I don't think it's the people that are the problem. I think it's the food.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, what Merlin, what food should people be eating?
Well, it depends on which person it is.
But for
See you
each
tomorrow.
person.
See you tomorrow.
No.
You come back tomorrow. All right, well, I've drawn up a list for you. So, Adam Adamson should eat apples, carrots, rice, ginger, sweet potato.
Well, apparently it might be based off blood type.
Irregular, turnips. It's like an hour later. Right. Adam Adamson, the second one, who lives in Norway, should have carrots, broccoli.
He's Merlin. He can do it faster than that.
You asked for everything. He's also not like a jerk genie or a computer. You know, he's a wise ruler. So don't think he'd do it that way.
Yeah.
But it was just this interesting idea of like, what do we like? Because people, we want safety and we want health and whatnot, but we don't like. If we wanted safety, cars would go max like 30 kilometers an hour. We would still get everywhere way faster than any other mode of transportation, way more efficiently.
Well, I'm thinking basically like how can like make super painkillers that aren't bad for us.
I don't know, like that. Yeah, it's like what do we actually care about?
Who it was Dad was talking about this book and I can't remember him ever reading it to me, but it's like there's a planet with a bunch of people who like don't feel any pain because there's this psychic race who take all their pain for them. Then the psychic race stop taking everyone's pain and so the planet commits suicide.
Yeah, it's called the Wayfarers or something.
Okay.
And yeah, basically
Is it by Orson Scott Card?
yes.
Okay.
It's I think it's yeah, I've read it. It's a 2-part book, which is quite weird because the it's a computer that takes away their pain, I believe.
Ah.
And so what happens is the first colony ship ever or something. To put someone into transport, you basically have to shut them off. And so you store all their memories in like this globe, like this basically this like memory card, but it's like this sort of globe or something.
Yeah.
And then you put them into like a cryo sleep basically, and then when they wake up, they have no memories. But then because the process somehow destroys their memories, but then you inject their memories back into them.
Yeah.
So what happens is this first colony ship they send out for like hundreds of years or whatever it is, and the ship ends up crashing, like it gets hit by a meteor or something.
Yeah.
And it crash lands on a planet that happens to be habitable. And actually most of the passengers survive the crash, but the memory banks are destroyed.
Right.
So all these people, they land on this thing and they have no idea who they are. And all they have is like the knowledge of what they can find in the wreckage, basically.
Yeah.
And I think maybe a few people have their memories or something, but I'm not sure about that. And also I think the computer is still working and it's doing but it's like damaged. It doesn't. And how did that work? Like the computer's damaged in some way anyways, I think. It's been a while since I read the book, but I think it basically can't it doesn't know a lot of stuff as well, but it's doing its best to try to guide people and tell them, okay, you need to like make axes and cut down trees and make log cabins to survive because winter's coming soon. And so sort of guides them. And then it's a few generations down the line what they're sort of like. And this I think a baby falls in a fire and like burns to death or something. And it's been so long, it like horrifies the main character or something.
Yeah.
And other people are like, well, you know, it happens. Like, what do you expect? And like, I can't remember. There's some weird stuff, like someone like cuts off his hand and then bleeds to death because he just doesn't like.
There are pains getting taken away by the computer.
Yeah, and then the second half of the book is about the society that has decided to use this technology, like the non-colonists staying on Earth.
Yeah.
That use this technology as a form of currency, so it becomes the new currency. So basically, you buy days. So if you work for like 3 days, you might gain 1 day, which means they will put you under for a day. So after a work week, you might get like 3 days, and then they'll like put you in cryosleep for 3 days. And so the reason they do that is because technology is always advancing, and the rate of advance is always increasing. So the world is better the further along you are. So basically, the idea is that the higher paying jobs let you go further into the future because you're in a suspended state for longer.
Huh.
And so the ruler of Earth is this, she's the queen of Earth, and she's put into, she only wakes up like once every 5 years or something, and so she's been around for like hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And there's this huge thing of, because you have these memory globes, you can give the memory globes to other people. So there's actually this huge entertainment industry about downloading other people's memories, basically. Or watching them, maybe. Maybe you don't download them. Maybe you just watch them on a screen, because they're able to be read from the first person, basically.
Yeah.
And so there's this huge industry about watching memories, which Cyberpunk, I think, actually goes into a lot as well. Like the new Cyberpunk game is going to go into. But there's like, people want like experiences of like, I think it's similar to Cyberpunk, actually, where they want like sort of snuff films where like, they'll kill someone and steal their memories sort of thing, and then you can be like, experience death sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think that might happen in there. But what it also turns out is the queen is televised like every moment, basically. So she when she goes into sleep, like you see them inject the thing that puts her into suspended state into her and everything. And it's like, okay. But it turns out like a humongous amount of Earth's wealth actually goes into the mix they give her.
Yeah.
Because the normal mix causes insane pain.
Oh.
Like unbelievable, unending pain, basically. But when you wake up, you've lost all your memories. So they never, like, try to fix it because it's so expensive to fix. So the queen is, like, the only person on Earth that actually gets the painless thing because people watch the queen get injected, but they never watch anyone else get injected.
Huh. Anyways.
Yeah.
So with that weird tangent, I think, like, the avoidance of pain is a very big thing for people.
Yeah, but I don't know if, like, we care about it as much as, like people
well, no,
push...
We don't care about living or dying, but we'd rather not be in chronic pain.
Right. But I think we also, like, will push ourselves to pain to some point. So maybe, like...
I guess so.
And do we want painkillers or do we want cures? Like...
I think we want painkillers.
Like, if someone has... I don't know, I think we want cures. Like, if someone has that horrible disease I learned about recently, which is called acuthesia.
Yeah.
I think that we would want... Like, we'd go to Merlin. Like, can we have a cure for acuthesia? Can we have a cure... So the most painful thing, I believe, on Earth is called cluster headaches.
Yeah.
I believe that's the most painful thing a person can experience or something.
Yeah.
So, like, do we look up a cure for, like, is the first thing you go to Merlin, like, how do we cure cluster headaches?
Yeah.
He's like, well, you'll need to drill a hole in their skull, get 3 leeches, stick it on their arm.
I'm Merlin, I'm from the medieval era. Do you think I know medicine?
But even, like, Merlin could be like, here it is 1,000 crystals, which will, if worn on the skull, will, like, you know, like, he could just create, like, a magical solution, maybe.
Yeah.
He's like, I will create 10,000 crystal amulets, which we can give to people with cluster headaches, which will prevent the pain. Something like that.
That's actually a very interesting thing in itself of, like, having these amulets, because then they become super valuable in some ways.
Yeah.
Like, the limited resource.
Yeah, and, like, the question is how fast can Merlin make them, I guess.
Yeah.
And then maybe you could waste some time getting Merlin to train up some other wizards, but...
Yeah.
That didn't go so well last time he had an apprentice, so...
Yeah. In some stories he had 2 apprentices, but Morgiana killed the other one.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I like the idea of... It's kind of like that whole, we discovered this new element thing, right?
Yeah.
But instead it's, like, anything. So you don't have to worry about the, like, what are the entire ramifications. It's just like, can we have an indestructible metal? Here you go. Bam.
Yeah. What are we going to do with this stuff? It's indestructible.
I don't know. You asked for.
It's actually often one of my thoughts when I do that thought experiment.
Yeah.
It's like a new mineral, like this metal that's like indestructible.
Yeah.
And so basically it's an alloy, and you alloy it, make it into what you want, and you get 1 shot.
Steady. Glass is kind of... Well, tempered glass is like that.
Yeah. But it's basically like some material, like you alloy it, and you get 1 shot, and then you can't, like, fix it after that.
If you break any part of tempered glass, the entire structure shatters. So
yeah,
it's kind of like that.
But you can melt it down again.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, like, this, like an indestructible metal, right?
Just have a bunch of this junk that you can't do anything about.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, that'd be so annoying. Yeah, and how was it? Like, that's the other thing. Like, we're saying like, okay, cure cluster headaches on day 1, do this on day 2, but what about cure like I don't know, cure the coronavirus day 1, stop world hunger day 2, stop like there's such bigger things as well, like unlimited energy. Like, what's more important? Does it matter? I guess like the other thing is doesn't matter because Merlin is such a big boon. You could ask him for the most like, can we have computers that are like 10 times faster? Like that is actually like huge. Yeah. And it's not like there's different ways to look at the. So I was thinking about this with with my arms, right?
Yeah.
And I was thinking, man, like the last 6 months have I've like lost so many opportunities, let's say.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are feeling that way with the coronavirus. Like I was going to go to Mexico, I was going to have this wedding, I was going to whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about it and I was thinking like that's one way to look at it. But the other way is like, you're looking at the worlds that you imagine is better. You don't know it's better, but you're looking at the world you imagine is better. But what about the world that you imagine is worse? Like, thank goodness we weren't struck by a meteor and my arms will at least heal in the next couple months.
Yeah, Cameron, if you look at the timeline where your arms didn't get injured,
Yeah, but it's more than that. It's not like my arms prevented something or caused something. Yeah. It's, obviously it'd be a better world, the one where I wasn't injured than the one I was. It'd be a better world where there wasn't the coronavirus than the one there wasn't.
There are worlds where those aliens that can instantly, drop distance decide to come and take back their tech.
But I think there is a tendency, we are looking at the world that could be, but only the one that is better than where we are rather than worse. And people are like that because we always like to strive to greater things and become better. Like it is a good behavior because it leads to us wanting better for ourselves.
Otherwise we'd be Neanderthals.
Yeah. But I think also there's a certain patience to be learned.
Yeah.
And also realizing that things could be better, but things could be worse. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I was thinking about Jordan Peterson's wife, how she nearly died for every 3 days for 6 months.
Yeah.
And I was like, that versus my arms. And
then that man almost died 3 separate occasions.
Yeah. So I think, and it's not that there's someone worse off than you. That's not the point. The point is you yourself could be worse off.
Yeah.
And when you look at these other people, you're not saying wow, I shouldn't feel bad because these people have it so much worse. Instead, you just use them as this is the possible range of human experience. And so now now I can say better what human experience is like. And I'm glad that my experience has only been this. Mm-hmm. I don't know. There's a sort of a positive twist to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, those aliens. I don't know if I talked to you about it, but I was actually looking at the videos and stuff.
Yeah, well, you talked about that one Bob whatever.
Yeah.
Bob Lazar.
Bob Lazar or Lazar, yeah.
Yeah, Lazar. And that crazy guy where we live.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the guy up here who, noticed drones way before they were a thing. Yeah. Yeah, and there's yeah, so that wasn't on the podcast, though, I guess. But
no.
But yeah, so I don't know what the best place to look this up would be. There was, but in 2004, I think it was, there was a video posted to a German film student website or something.
Yeah.
Which is the weirdest place to put it. And it was someone saying I took a video of a UFO. And the video is really low quality, black and white. And it shows this unidentified object zipping around the ocean.
Yeah.
And most people dismiss it as a hoax because it's okay, even if this is a legit video, why on earth would you post it? And he's yeah, this video was taken in no, it was put on in 2007, but the video was taken in 2004 or something.
Yeah.
And the guy's yeah, I took this I snuck this video out of the military 4 years ago, and I finally decided to post it here. People are why would you post here if it was a real thing? Why not bring it to the newspapers? Why not do this? Why not do this?
Yeah. And
then in 2015, I think, some more videos from the U.S. Navy started leaking of these pill-shaped objects, basically just zooming around and getting tracked by cameras I didn't even know we had the technology for.
Yeah.
I think that might be why the military doesn't like leaking that sort of stuff, because they want to keep the fact that they have the most amazing tracking cameras ever. Like,
well, besides these things apparently have shielding from those trackers.
or some, well, they think they have like a, I don't know about that, but
Well, that's
sticking to it. Yeah, sticking to the actual video.
Yeah.
We've got these weird objects that are moving very fast in irregular patterns, basically.
Yeah.
And we also have eyewitness accounts of several Navy officers, like in the Naval Air Force, whatever that's called.
Yeah.
Pilots, they call them. Who eyewitness accounts of them seeing these weird, like, tic-tac shaped objects define physics, basically.
Yeah.
And that was in 2015, and it's like, okay, there was a lot of stuff like, okay, this isn't real, this is a hoax, this is actually just like sun glare or something messing with the cameras, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Then in the end of last year, 2019, the United States Navy actually said, no, these guys are telling the truth. And then in April this year, they said, yeah, these videos are real. Mm-hmm. And then they started releasing documents about the videos so the Navy's like, yep, we saw this. We don't know what they are.
Yeah, well, one of the things, apparently, so the guy who originally leaked it, part of the reason why he, like, took so long is he was talking to his friends and, like, yeah, we see those things every once in a while. We don't know what to do about them. We're not allowed to talk about it, and they just happen. Yeah, so it's like,
he had friends off the East Coast where they were claiming it was so common that they actually, it was given to pilots as a warning, like, be careful that you don't crash into these things.
Yeah.
Like, they're not common, but it's common enough that was a warning. Like, be careful. There's these things flying around, like, incredibly fast with no regards for gravity or direction or anything. Air resistance.
There's these damn 4-dimensional beings in our airspace, and we just have to avoid them.
Well, I think, like, there's a bunch of possibilities here, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people like to jump to aliens. But they could be animals, like Earth animals.
Yeah.
Or they could be, like you said, 4-dimensional beings, not of Earth, but of the solar system or something, and, like, the distances don't matter to them, or of the universe, and, like, distances don't matter to them.
Yeah.
They could be advanced military technology that we don't know about, because the military loves not telling people about its new stuff.
Yeah.
But if they are on such a much higher level than stuff we've seen. It's kind of like drones were on a much higher level than anything we've seen. But these things, reported as early as the 80s, which was before drones or around the time of drones, are on another level altogether.
Yeah.
And because if they are the thing that Bob Lazar was talking about, which is like this anti-gravity generation thing, which sounds... The other thing is, because the military is so secretive, who knows what lies and, I don't know, hallucinogens or something they're like giving these people?
Yeah.
So...
What was it? Sorry. In the... What time was it? Was it the 80s or 70s? When were they getting really into, like, hypnosis and...
yeah, I think that was the 80s maybe.
Yeah, and try and make super soldiers through, like, giving them, like, drugs and, like, DHT and mushrooms and...
Yeah, and trying to, like, get psychics in the military. And
and then they decide to go a different route, which is just have, like, really big guns.
Yeah.
But, like, for that short while, like, who knows how that messed with people's brains and, like, what ranges they're testing it on.
Yeah. And also just, like, if Bob Lazar, right, let's say they wanted him to build them drones back in the 80s.
Yeah.
They tell him, like, they could tell him, like, okay, this is like alien technology we want you to research, where really they're trying to get him to advance their drone technology without letting him know. And if he leaks the information, they're like, okay, which guy did we say it was aliens from, like, Zircon B or whatever? It's like, oh, that was Bob Lazar. Okay, well, he's the leaker. Let's get him.
Yeah.
So that could be the reason they were doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be the reason he thinks that this is like a UFO technology or something.
Yeah.
Another possibility is... Let's say the Americans have UFOs that are actually from Russia or China or something.
Yeah.
And they're like, what are these things? We need to, like, they're way ahead of us. We need to do something. Mm-hmm. Another possibility could be it's a natural phenomenon we don't know about, like firestorms and tsunamis is a really interesting one. Until 2004 or something, they weren't confirmed as like there was stories about them, but until they actually filmed one in Indonesia or something, I think it was. They didn't actually, like, have like video proof of these things.
Yeah.
And rogue waves. So this is an interesting one. Giant waves in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
There has been sailor stories of that for centuries, but scientists say that's impossible. Like, that's not how waves work. Waves hit the bottom of the ocean floor and they rise up and they crash.
Yeah.
And tsunamis aren't rogue waves because they're just like a wall of water. They're not like a big standing wave.
Yeah.
Now, interestingly, our grandfather actually saw a rogue wave when he was in the Korean War, when they were boating him out to Korea.
Really?
Yeah. But until satellite imagery proved that they actually exist, we didn't know they existed.
I mean, just seeing the movie trailer about that rogue wave crew off the coast of Newfoundland is enough to make me want to stay away from the ocean forever.
Another thing is colossal squid, and there's a whole bunch of them. There's not just one kind. There's like a whole bunch of kinds.
Oh, really?
And until very, very recently, like, we're like, okay, these don't exist. And then we're like, okay, we found this dead one, or this partially digested squid in a whale's stomach. Okay, that might be something. And then we found this dead one washed up on shore. And now deep sea oil rigs, their cameras, underwater cameras, are starting to pick up these things. And they are like massive. They're like 20 feet long and like alien looking. Like, they're creepy.
Yeah.
They're really creepy. You can look up like, we now have videos of these things in their natural habitat, basically, and they are they don't move like a normal animal. Like, they're actually disturbing. Like, they have like, their tentacles are like bent at right angles, and they like have you seen those pictures or videos at all?
No.
Like, they're creepy. They don't look like
Well, maybe those pill-shaped things are dropping them into our ocean.
Well, so basically there's these phenomena that we see, and we don't know what it is. And then like 10, 15, 100,000 years down the line, we're like, oh yeah, that's that. Like, Aurora Borealis. Imagine the first time someone saw that. Like,
well, I don't even know if it was like giant squid responsible for it. I think it was probably what eats them, the sperm whale, was the kraken, I think.
Yeah.
For a while, like this ship-destroying monster.
It could be.
But maybe maybe there's some fishermen, and they accidentally caught a colossal squid or a giant squid, and they went, oh dear God!
Yeah.
And then they're like, there's some giant tentacle monster in the ocean.
Well, like, I don't know how strong squids are. Octopuses are actually... Go to sleep. My thing just came on. Octopuses are actually decently strong.
Yeah.
And so, like, a squid that's like 20 feet long, like, I don't know how strong squid are, but I could imagine that being able to kill people.
Yeah.
And so that could actually be, like, if one of those... Like, I don't see a deep-sea squid attacking a ship just because I don't know if it could survive, like, above water.
The depressurization, even.
Yeah. However, like, a giant, like a Pacific octopus or something...
Yeah.
They can go above water, no problem. And they are, like, 8 feet across. And so, like, that could probably, like, at least be very scary.
I had the thought of, like, a sperm whale, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it's just chewed on a giant squid, and then it gets pissed off at some fishing boat. So it comes off, and it's got, like, a giant squid hanging out of its mouth.
Slaps him with it.
Well, maybe not slaps him with it, but it's just got, like, a tentacle hanging out of its mouth. The sailors get back, and they're like, there's this giant sea monster with tentacles.
There's also something that's I mean that would be a perfectly, like, it's stormy and your ship's getting like rammed and you're like, what is that thing?
Yeah. And then people like, okay, what has tentacles? Squids and octopus? Maybe it's a giant octopus.
There's also like, imagine so how, like, most crocodiles I think are like 12 feet long or something, and but then there's like 21-foot long crocodiles.
Yeah.
And, like, most people are, like, 5'9" on average, maybe, let's say.
Yeah.
But there's people that are, like, 9 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
Like, one person that was 9 foot tall. Yeah. But there's a lot of people that are, like, 7 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, like, like 12% larger or something?
Yeah.
And so, if there's an octopus that's, like, 20% larger than a normal octopus.
Yeah.
Like... The thing is about humans is that there's billions of us.
Yeah.
So it's far more likely to see mutations. But we are also a fairly genetically undiverse species.
Yeah.
We're, like, weirdly similar to each other. like basically every other species on Earth has like dogs are an extreme example.
Dimorphism.
But there is a lot of species on Earth that like they have a lot of variety within the species.
Well, the sperm whale that Moby Dick was based off of was a giant. Like,
right.
The frigate killer, it killed 3 frigates and like ate all the crew.
Well, that's the thing about a lot of sea creatures as well. We don't know a lot about the sea still. So, like whales can live for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And like I imagine that we have a fairly decent grip on this, but for an example of how little we know, we thought that gray whales were almost extinct.
Yeah.
Because we're like, okay, there's 3 pods in the world, and 2 of them have all but disappeared.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, no. There's 1 pod in the world, and it moves.
Yeah.
So, that's how little we know about whales. We can't even find them again.
I think that sperm whale was like 3 feet longer than normal or something.
Well, probably more than 3. Like sperm whales are like 60 feet long. Like, you're not going to notice 3 feet.
Yeah, it might have been bigger than that. It was huge anyway. It's like a giant. I mean, it's very old.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm wondering is, like, we know so little about whales, so little about tracking whales.
Yeah.
Do whales stop growing, or do they just keep growing?
Yeah.
Like, and do whales die? Like, if a whale somehow manages to live to 500, is it just twice the size of like a 100-year-old whale?
Well, I do remember, because it's kind of, we can't like base a lot of things on whales' age, even with like dating and stuff. But I think one thing they did was like look at pollutants and when pollutants started happening and how they like get picked up in the blubber and like the skin. And so there was like,
oh, sorry, yeah.
I think it was a blue whale. They basically like they took a skin sample from him, like he's just floating along, and they went down. And before they thought he was like in his 90s, and it turned out he's like over 200.
Yeah. There was I think it was a humpback possibly.
Yeah.
But it might have been a sperm whale, where they found an 18th century harpoon embedded in it.
Yeah.
Like just rusting away. And obviously didn't penetrate too deep, or like you think that would have gotten nastily infected.
Yeah.
But yeah, they live for such a long time, like and like mammals we think we have a kind of a grip on, right? Like we're like, but whales live for so long it's kind of weird already. But we're like, okay, mammals, they seem to age and die. But whales don't really get cancer. So we don't, and we think that the bigger a creature is, the more susceptible it should be to cancer in some ways.
Yeah.
But whales don't really get cancer. So we obviously don't know that much about the extremes. But something like a squid, right?
Yeah.
What is like, we don't have a frame of reference for squids. Like,
just going back to that whales don't get cancer for a second.
Yeah.
So like people get cancer are generally older, right?
Yeah.
Like on average. So what if like all whales are just like tweens?
I mean, that could be a reason. They think the reason is actually possibly because they have so many cells that if one of them goes bad, there's so many others that know the right way to be that they just kind of override it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, there's a couple possibilities. Or that they have, like, cancer is always the same size, maybe. So, like, human cancer, like, it's the size of one of your organs. Whale cancer, it's like a pimple.
Yeah.
Even though, and like mouse cancer, like, kills the mouse entirely. Like, so there's a couple ideas sort of around that. And I probably horribly misrepresented them there. But, so like a squid, like, we know that medusas, which are jellyfish, sort of, in a different form. Yeah.
They're a polyp, aren't they?
They create polyps.
Yeah.
It's like a weird life cycle.
They're like a living little creature that turns into a plant.
Yeah, so that's a hydra is the plant, and then a hydra releases a polyp which grows into a medusa, which then latches on and becomes a hydra again or something.
Yeah.
So they are biologically immortal. Like, unless you like stomp on them, they don't die, basically.
Yeah.
I don't know if sponges are the same. They might be. But are squids? Who knows? Like, maybe someone does, but the fact that we didn't even know giant squids exist and colossal squids, like, maybe squids just don't stop growing.
Yeah. Maybe they just evolve into the next form.
Yeah, I mean, there was... So I have a card, actually. It's this collectible card for kids of a dinosaur.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I, for some reason, know a bit about this creature. I don't remember its name, unfortunately, and I don't know where the card is. But the card says that this is a very weird... It was like the... How did this go? I might get this backwards, but it applies either way in the fact that there was a mistake made.
Yeah.
But basically, I think how it goes is they said this is a very weird species of dinosaur, one of the smallest species of dinosaur, a kind of raptor.
Yeah.
And its hips are so small that it probably often died in childbirth.
Yeah.
Something like that, like giving birth to eggs or something. Or it would have had to not lay eggs because its hips are so small, it would need to live birth or something like that. I can't remember. But then they found, it turned out that, no, this is a baby of like, whatever. Or it might have been the other way around, that they thought they had a baby and another thing, but it turned out they were two separate species.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like, who knows? Maybe a vampire squid becomes a colossal squid once it kills enough, like, dolphins or something.
Yeah. Well, so the other thing, right, like you're saying, we don't know about our oceans. Like, you know the megalodon thing, right?
Yeah, like, what's down in the deep waters?
Like, there's still thoughts that there's megalodons, and there's been sightings, and there's, like, teeth that people have dated of, like, sharks that are absolutely huge.
Yeah.
And sharks do keep growing, we do know that. But
The other thing is, like, let's say, like, sharks live for hundreds of years as well, it turns out.
Yeah.
And let's say sharks are biologically immortal, like, maybe they are, right?
Yeah.
So what if megalodons are extinct, but there's still megalodons around?
Yeah.
Like, they're just, like, 600 years old, like 2,000 years old, infertile, and just swimming around at the bottom of the ocean.
Like, every once in a while, grab a whale, grab a giant squid.
Yeah. Like, there might be creatures like that out there. That'd actually be really cool if there was, like, I think I talked about this before, like, every nation having their own sort of immortal, like, mega beast.
Yeah.
But, like, if it was, like, on a much more realistic scale, like, in Amazon, we have the last Camarasaurus in the ocean. There's like 3 megalodons still going around. They're all males, but they're still alive. And like,
well, okay, sorry, my brain just shut down. There's drilling going on nearby in metal. That's why Jordan gets upset about it. It just like goes straight into your brain.
Yeah.
Like, also, how deep we can get into Earth? Like, what if there's, like, some super high-pressure digger monsters?
Yeah. No, it'd most likely be bacteria, but yeah, we don't know. I think we had noticed the tremors, but...
going back to... phase through dirt?
Well, yeah, going back to those UFO things.
Yeah.
If we don't know what to look for, we're not going to find it, right?
Yeah, like, what if, like, a natural phenomenon, like you said, like, what if we have some... Like, we have bats that can fly, we have birds that can fly. What if we have, like, some weird zephyr creature?
Wasn't there a case where some form of researcher...
Okay, no, I know what you're talking about.
Was it whale researchers?
Maybe. They were looking for whales...
And they discovered radar or something.
Yeah. Yeah, so what they were doing was they're flying really, really high. And they're doing radar down low.
Oh, no, those whooping cranes, maybe.
Yeah.
Was it?
No, so this is how whooping cranes were discovered. Is planes were really high, and a guy's like, I've got a crane outside my plane.
Yeah.
What's going on here? And then basically, like, there's cranes up there, and so like, what? These are meant to be extinct, and so they like started setting up really high planes, and they followed them.
But what I'm thinking of is, like, they were looking for some animal, like if it was whales or cranes or something.
They were looking for cranes, and they found bison.
No, but they didn't find it. They found, like, a military technology. Like, they discovered, like, radar or something. And so it was, like, I don't remember what it was, but it was, like, they were looking for one thing, and then they discovered radar, and they're like, there's, like, some sort of, like, you know, they're listening, let's say it was whales, right?
Yeah.
So they're listening for whale songs, and they hear this weird, like, bing, bing, sort of like consistent sound, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, what kind of weird natural phenomenon is that? And it's like, doesn't make any sense. And it turned out it was like the first tests of radar or sonar in submarines or something.
Huh.
And so I wonder if, like, you know, you discovered these things by accident. Like these Navy guys are flying around in the oceans where people have not been out in the middle of the ocean for long periods, out in the ocean skies.
Yeah.
Like, the first time people have been out in the ocean skies is, like, the 1940s.
Yeah.
And that still hasn't changed much. But now that militaries are doing more and more maneuvers out there with more and more, much more sensitive equipment, like these cameras that they have can track something going like 400 miles an hour, and like if one of those little Tic Tac things was around like 50 years ago, like let's say during World War II, like you're flying out doing some reconnaissance from your aircraft carrier. Yeah. It's a bit cloudy. You see this little thing. You're like, oh, what's that? And then it's like off the edge. You're like, is that a cloud or is that? And then it's gone. Yeah. And you're like, well, I don't know what that was. But these things, they're like, we've detected movement like out of sight of range, like out of visual distance. We're gonna zoom in on that, get our infrared scanner on there, get a lock on, have this thing automatically track it. And so I think as we get more and more sensitive technology, we're going to discover more and more stuff that we didn't know was already there.
It turns out that ghosts are a thing and they're everywhere. Like there's 3 of them inside you right now.
Yeah, stuff like that. Like we're going to be like, because I think a lot of mysteries are just due to a lack of information. Like dark matter, for example, right?
Yeah.
It's like, where is all the mass in the universe that isn't accounted for? What if it's already on Earth? We just can't detect it. We're like,
yeah.
It's all these little these Tic Tac things. They're the rest of the mass.
Yeah. Or it's, I mean, she's my mother too, so never mind.
But, like Northern Lights, right? And Southern Lights.
Yeah.
You're, I don't know, you're like Italian.
Yeah.
And you're like the first Italians. Like humanity has only gone as far as Italy from Africa.
Yeah.
And so you're like, all right, I want to just go on a great adventure. Like, I'm going to go north. I just want to see what's there.
Yeah.
And people are like, and nobody has, like, people have gone north before. Nobody's survived. You're like, I'm going to go on an adventure. So you go north and you see the Northern Lights. And you come back. You're the only person who's survived this tale to see the Northern Lights.
Yeah.
That is something you didn't know was possible within the rules of reality.
Yeah.
And I think that these little pill-shaped things could very well be a similar phenomenon.
Yeah.
They could just be like when gravity interacts with gamma radiation from a neutron star, it creates something that resembles physical mass but isn't, or something.
Yeah.
Like it could just be some sort of little wrinkle in physics we're not aware of.
Yeah.
Or it could be military technology, which...
A glitch in reality. It's a glitch in the Matrix.
Yeah. Well, it could actually be like a bug in like the simulation or something. Like.
Yeah.
Or it could be the little cameras you use to like
observe.
Look at,
yeah,
like, your...
that's what I was thinking. Like the little cameras you look around with.
Like, yeah.
Like our technology's getting so advanced, we're starting to be able to observe the simulation.
Yeah.
Like okay,
or
sort of on that Merlin idea, right? Like, what if we invent like a piece of technology, like a radio?
Yeah.
And we can talk with the game devs with that, like.
Yeah.
Like just like, hello, is there anyone out there? Yep, I'm just getting my pizza now. What? Yep, no, I created your universe.
Well, in theory, we should already be able to communicate with them because they should be able to observe us and they should be able to send us information.
Yeah, I guess.
So with the what was it? The camera thing, right?
Yeah.
If instead of simulation, think like terrarium as well. Like,
yeah.
Let's say you have like an ant nest.
Yeah.
The ants might not even be aware that they're in a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then one day, one of them crawls up on the lamp and they're like, wait a minute, that's not the sun.
Yeah.
And then they're like, and if the ant technology improves and they're like, hey, we've been exploring, there's like this, like the food is just coming from this thing. Like we're not finding it. It's getting dropped off every day. Like,
can you imagine if ant technology improved?
Yeah. Like it could be something along that line where we're finally seeing the strings behind the tug,
But just one little side thought. I don't know if bit of tangent, but like the those massive ant wars going on in the States. Like imagine if they started like developing the equivalents of nukes for ants.
Well, they kind of like the what are they called? The crazy ants.
Yeah,
I think like the ones that just have like more animals than any other species on Earth.
Yeah.
They almost like their birth rate is so fast. I wonder if they kind of do have technological advancement.
What are they called? The ants that fight them.
Yeah.
Are starting to do something really weird. So crazy ants, there's an enemy that's come over, which is what keeps them down. and it's come finally to the North America, and it's a fungus,
Mm.
and it kills crazy ants. It's like a natural predator of them or enemy. So ants have started cultivating it.
Oh, to use.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's like
There's a few of where the Argentinian ants, like a few Argentinian ants actually cultivate it.
and I think a lot of I think a lot of animals like they are aware of tools. Like you can give a chimpanzee like a saw and they'll like figure it out.
Yeah, they'll be incredibly pleased actually with saws once they figure them out and they'll use them.
Mm. And I think like I don't know what their odds of like you could give a chimpanzee a saw and it could maybe hand it down to its children and whatnot.
Yeah.
But if that saw broke, I don't know where they would be.
Yeah, but like even our dog, like we taught him if toys are missing, check inside the toy bin.
Yeah.
Like he's learned to use the tool of opening a latch with his face.
Well, I think intelligence is actually like something that we would consider basically no intelligence, right?
Yeah.
Like a gerbil
Yeah.
actually is actually able to do very complex things.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that means that things that we consider to have high intelligence, like a human or a dog or a dolphin or something, are way higher, or if we just want more separation between us and a gerbil.
Yeah. Well, I think we
Because,
want
like-
as much separation as possible between us and a gerbil.
Like you look at sheep, for example,
Yeah.
and they are really good with faces. They are really good with puzzles involving what was it, like hiding things or something?
Sheep?
Yeah, like they're really good with color and shape memorization or something.
Okay.
And they're very good with faces. They're very good at maintaining order.
They're stealthy, apparently.
But they're actually like quite intelligent, just not in a lot of areas that we'd normally look. And I think ants apparently even with that whole like using the fungus and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like how much intelligence do you think an ant has? But
Yeah, well, one of the things that the crazy ant does, which is one of the huge problems why they're such a blight, is they grab aphids and they stick them against plants. And there's another bug that they cultivate. Can't remember what it's called. So the blight that is the crazy ant isn't them eating everything. It's their cattle eating all of our food.
they're like ranchers.
Yeah, so they'll literally they'll pick up an aphid and run over into like someone's garden and plant it against their hedge or plant it against their grass, and then they'll like just dot them everywhere. And then the aphid's happy and it eats. This gives protection. Then they milk the aphid for nectar, and so the blight is them farming.
Can you imagine like an aphid's life? Like it must be like a panda.
Yeah.
You know, like pandas are basically extinct. Just people keep them alive.
Yeah.
And they're just like our toys almost at this point.
Most pandas are super overweight.
I imagine like aphids are kind of like that. Like ants, like aphids do live in the wild, but like they're like aphids would be like gerbils or kittens or something. Like you just like pick it up and it's like.
You remember the Ants movie where they had like those little googly eyes or there's that blob?
Yeah. They're like those cute little like lap dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just such a like I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, when like a ladybug comes by or something, it must be terrifying because
Well, ants kill ladybugs. Like they will wipe ladybugs and spiders out of a zone to make sure that their cattle, like us with wolves,
yeah.
they do that with their aphids and their other herdables. They
Speaking of,
go and kill all the predators.
so like I was watching, it was a bit of Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
You know, like Haast's eagles, like those massive eagles that would like hunt people and.
Nope.
Okay, well, in Australia, like they're like the biggest ever like flying bird.
Yeah.
It was Haast's eagle, and it would hunt like moa, those massive like elephant bird like things.
Yeah.
And it would hunt people, and so people like killed them.
Yeah.
Like they killed all the moa, which basically caused the Haast eagles to starve out. But they would also like kill the Haast eagle, I believe.
Yeah.
Although I'm not actually no. Let's take that back. They killed all the moa at the least.
Yeah.
Bears in the UK. Here's a better example.
Yeah.
The UK used to have bears. They're all dead.
Yeah.
Italy used to have lions. They're all dead.
Yeah.
People tend to kill everything that causes them problems.
Yeah.
unless they're like really scary, like lions, elephants, water buffalo, hippopotamus. Like
Polar
Africa,
bears.
basically anything in Africa
Yeah.
is unkillable because they grew up with humans.
Yeah.
They evolved with humans, but everything in the rest of the world doesn't stand a chance against African animals, except like the rare exception, like a grizzly or a polar bear or a wolf
tiger.
or a tiger. Like there's very few animals like a crocodile.
Yeah.
But most animals don't stand a chance against African animals.
Yeah.
Like the only like wolves are probably the greatest predators on Earth besides people. And so wolves are still around, but like basically everything else is like less than an African animal. Even a polar bear, like actually the polar bear might be the exception as well, but like a hippopotamus versus a polar bear, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, polar bears take on things in the ocean, and yeah.
But anyways, I guess the ocean is like a different
Different playing
playground.
field.
Yeah. But there
Don't
was
mess with the ocean.
So there's this theory, right?
Yeah.
Which is that humans wipe out basically everything that's dangerous to them, much like ants wipe out everything dangerous to their aphids, apparently.
Yeah.
So birds, you often don't get fossils from birds because their bones are hollow, so they're very delicate bodies, delicate skeletons. They kind of die out. So all around the world at roughly the same time, like in Africa, in Rome, in Europe, in China, imagery of people fighting dragons appeared.
Yeah.
So there's this theory that dragons existed and people killed them all, and then nothing remained because of their delicate, like, bird-like structure.
Huh.
And so that's where all the imagery came from, but now they don't exist, which I think is a really cool idea.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's that likely because people tend to keep records of that sort of thing.
Well, so there's the other theory of the dragon, which I think is quite cool, which is there was 3 predators of humans, primarily, like when we were apes in trees.
Yeah.
And that was the snake, the leopard, and the hawk, or the bird, like a giant eagle.
Yeah.
And so
No, I think
basically we combine those all together, and that's a dragon.
Well, there's also so I was thinking, like, what are the potential things that are dangerous, right?
Yeah.
There's like, it could be this great big scary thing. It could be fire. It could be armored. It could be like poisonous and like serpentine. Like basically a dragon is like, even without that theory, but that theory makes it even stronger, I think.
Yeah.
A dragon is basically the perfect predator.
Yeah, it's death.
Yeah. So I think a dragon is basically like, so imagine you hear a noise in a bush, right?
Yeah.
And you don't know what it is. And so you have to go through the process of eliminating what it is.
Yeah.
So like, okay, does this thing fly or does it walk? So you can, okay, it's on the ground, so you get rid of wings. And then you're like, okay, is it armored or is it not? Okay, is it dangerous or is it not? Like you narrow it down to the thing that it is, right?
Yeah.
A dragon is kind of the starting point.
Yeah, it's the ambiguous eldritch horror, the monster in the closet, like what could it be?
But basically, like, when you have your like key of like sorting, you have like a bunch of checkboxes, and you're like, okay, once I check off 2 of these, it's this. If I check off 3 of these, it's this. But a dragon, you check off every single one.
The dragon's when it's blank.
Yeah, it's like, okay, this is everything horrible I can imagine in one thing.
Yeah.
Like, if you see a dragon, you're doomed.
Yeah, and that could even be like, they here be dragons. I don't know if apps ever have that, but it's like, you go there, you're dead. So what's the ultimate killer?
Well, yeah, I've heard, I don't know if it's true, but I've heard the point of that was like, okay, if you go more than 3 days away from the shore, you're gonna die, and we don't want that on our conscience, so we're gonna scare people away.
You went blank there for a second.
Oh, so I don't know if this is true, but I've heard, basically, it's like, okay, if you go 3 days away from shore, you're dead. Like if you're in a boat.
Yeah.
And the map maker doesn't want that on their conscience.
Yeah.
So they basically say, okay, if you go out here, there's a monster, it'll get you. It's kind of like the whole Inuit method of child raising.
Yeah.
Like,
or even just
if you go near the ice, a demon will grab you and pull you under and rip out your entrails. And
yeah. I don't like their mythology. Like,
full of everything awful.
So, do you know the origination of all the sea life in the world to the Inuit?
What is it?
Okay, so man and woman go out boating, right?
Yeah.
The man hates his wife. He wants to kill her, so he pushes her overboard.
Yeah.
She grabs onto the side of the boat and tries to pull herself back up. He cuts off her fingers. They fall into the ocean. Those turn into the whales and seals and sea life.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And she drowns, and her hair becomes the seaweed. And I hate that story.
Need a bit of marriage counseling.
It's not that. It's just like the cutting off her fingers, and I don't like that at all.
Yeah. Well, I think, you live in a place where there's like no food, and anyone else you meet, like the Dene or the Russians, or the Sampi, they want to kill you. Yeah. Actually, I don't know if the Sampi were nearby. They're kind of everywhere though, weren't they? I'm not 100% on that.
The sea people.
Yeah. They want to kill you. The animals are all like super dangerous. Yeah. You're cold all the time. It's always dark. Yeah. I think you have a pretty miserable mythology. Yeah. Like what's like Iraq's like mythology? Like I guess like that's Gilgamesh and whatnot. Yeah. It's like the perfect land. You get like a lot of gods that.
Oh, I heard an interesting theory about the sea people. There's a theory that they were Vikings. They were the precursors to the Vikings.
We are Viking.
Basically, they were like maybe not Scandinavians, but they're basically northern raiders that all went out at the same time.
Just killed everything.
Yeah, and then they got a bunch of technology, and then they like brought it to Europe.
I heard that there's thoughts that they were like Italians or Africans. Like basically just crossed the Mediterranean.
Yeah. Could be the Chinese even.
Yeah, or Chinese, that would be quite a stretch, but possible. Yeah. But like the Indians, not the Indians, sorry, the Spanish.
Or they're the Fomir.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if the Fomir were like the, or the Fomor. They were like, they were the Vikings. Like, you live in Ireland, and these like you drove out the giant peoples that live there.
It could even like this is a bit of a stretch, but like know how there's like there's 4 different humans and like 3 of them were killed. Yeah. So I know one of them basically they had a very small population and they ran away. There was the monobrow giants that like were kind of just meh about things and didn't really care much. And then the 4th one were actually just as violent as people, but there's less of them.
Yeah,
so like one of the Fomir were like a different group of people that just all got killed.
So the Homo neanderthalensis. Yeah. Larger, bulkier, more muscular than Homo sapiens. Yeah. Homo erectus was in Asia, and they were incredibly they lasted for 2 million years, which is pretty impressive. Yeah. Homo solensis were like tiny. Yeah. I believe. Oh wait, no, sorry. Homo florensis were tiny. They maximum height of 1 meter, weighed no more than 25 kilograms. Yeah. Homo denisova, they don't know much about. They found Homo rudolfensis, Homo ergaster. Yeah. Like there is a lot of homos. What would you call that? Humans? Different kinds of human? Yeah. Non-sapien humans. Yeah. And they were like, you had like Erectus were kind of like monkey-like, and Neanderthals were like massive, and Solensis were like loved hot temperatures. And pygmies, like apparently. That was the Florensis were like pygmies. Yeah. Like so it is possible that the Fomor were just like Neanderthals or something.
Yeah. Well, like what if they stuck around a little long? I guess we'd have skeletons though, so. Yeah. I mean, stories can come from our cultural zeitgeist. So.
But the thing is, stories are the zeitgeist, aren't they? Wouldn't that be the
I guess so.
That? But like the Denisova, right? The Homo Denisova was discovered in 2010. Yeah. Like we like to think we know sort of like okay, no, that's too much of a generalization. Just because we don't know about it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Well,
how about that?
So, the coasts of Ireland and Scotland are also some of the most treacherous in the world, right?
Yeah.
So, like, how much have we actually explored, like, deep into them?
Yeah, like, if they've shrunk or grown or...
Yeah, so, like, what if, like, at some point someone, like, is poking around and they actually find, like, a bunch of Fomor skeletons?
They find, like, a castle under the sea with a dead Fomor in it.
Yeah, but, like, what if the Fomor were actually driven into the sea, like some race of giant, misshapen humans? Like, we actually drove them into the ocean.
Yeah.
And the coast around there is so nasty that we just...
Or they could be the Norse, like,
Yeah.
like the or the Danes or whatever. Like, the Vikings were large. They were very large.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, they were much bigger than most Europeans.
Yeah, they raided constantly well, and they went everywhere.
Yeah, like, they were all over.
Like, they got to... Well, they went to Greenland, then they went from there to the north coast.
They were in Constantinople.
Yeah. Well, I think...
Like, they were probably in Africa.
They probably even managed... A few probably managed to get to Asia. Like, let's be realistic.
I don't know. There's not really a path to Asia.
Like, but just by land, like, as mercenaries, they might have.
Maybe. The one in Constantinople, they think, was a mercenary.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he would have gone much further than that. Like,
Whereas
Asia's a long way. So.
in Spain, there was like a group of bodyguards that were all like pure Vikings. And it was like some sort of deal, like in that area, or it might be an where is it called? Aragon, or
Right.
There was like the group of mercenaries. They basically made a deal, which is, okay, you give us a bunch of money, we won't raid you, and we'll give you like 20 Viking bodyguards for your royalty.
So you got like these mega warriors.
Yeah.
I actually love like there's these like little things of history that are really cool. Like Vikings, they would die when they were off raiding.
Yeah.
So they would like grab people from the places they were in.
Yeah.
And then like more Vikings would die. So they would like a Viking would sail off.
Yeah.
And they would stop in Scotland and like they'd raid and they'd lose a man, so they'd capture like a Scottish slave and they'd put him on the ship, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then they'd boat down to France and they'd lose another Viking, so they get a French slave.
Yeah.
And then they go around to like Spain and they get like a Spanish guy, and they come around to Italy and they get like Italian, and they get an African guy. And then like by the end of it, you've got like one Viking and like 11 people from around the world, and it's like, right, let's go back home. Where is that? Nobody knows the way.
Well, wasn't that a thing in one of the Asterix and Obelix?
Wait a minute.
Well, see, it was a joke, I think. It was like once all the Roman slaves were freed, they were all on a boat, and then they turned into the pirates.
Right, yeah. But it is kind of like, I don't know how common that was or how big that became, but
Well,
the Vikings definitely like...
There was a TV series, a movie, I guess, which is based off a historical thing that happened. It's like partly legend, part historical. It's basically a story about Draugr or orcs.
Yeah.
And a village attacked them. But,
Go to sleep.
Pardon? Oh. So in this movie, there's some Vikings end up in like Arabia, basically, and they capture an Arabian guy and they put him on his boat. And then he figures out their language while they're boating back, and he has to like fight zombies with them. Or Draugr or whatever. But apparently there's reports of like there's some Arabian guy in among the Danes who actually got to a pretty high standing position as a warrior because they like captured him, and he has a scholar who just became a fighter with them.
Yeah, those little like mixings in history are so cool. Like when the Romans ended up in China, potentially.
Yeah. Well,
or when
like that story of that guy's being based off is, why on earth is there a headband and a curved sword inside this Viking tomb?
Yeah.
Like, why on earth is that a thing? Or, like, there's other, like, a lot of things as tombs. Like, why on earth are these items in this tomb, in this place?
Yeah, I love that sort of thing.
And that's the Roman thing. Like, they found, there was a missing legion, and they found Roman artifacts.
Yeah. Or was it, like, Roman-style walls or something? Or, like...
Yeah.
Can't remember what it... But, yeah, there's, like... Or at least, like, close enough. Like, maybe it wasn't actually that, but...
Yeah.
I want to see, like... You know, they discover, like... Because I think they found, like, the Haida, maybe it was?
Yeah.
In British Columbia. Had, like, pottery from China that they got from the Russians or something?
No, they got from the Chinese. They actually trade with them.
I thought they got it from the Russians.
Maybe. That was actually something that really messed with Europeans when they got to like some of the British Coast First Nations. It's like, we have metal tools. Yeah, we do too. What? Where did you get those from?
We have cannon ships. We do too.
Well, maybe not the cannon ships, but just like the Russians have been trading with them.
No, the Haida did though.
Oh, they did before that?
No, not before. They took them.
Yeah, I know, but just the thing, like you come to like British Columbia.
I think that's the Haida.
You come to British Columbia and you're like, we've got magical metal for you. Like, we're going like trade with these guys and mess with them, and they've all
blow their minds.
They've already have the stuff.
Yeah, well, the Haida as well were like they went everywhere. They're kind of like the Polynesians.
Yeah.
Actually, that's I really like the. I don't know if this is like kind of bad or sad or just weirdly like war hungry or something.
Yeah.
But I love like my favorite First Nation, or not even just First Nation. My favorite sort of stories, right?
Yeah.
Are people like the Haida, the Iroquois, the Apache, the Sioux, the Aztecs, the Japanese. They're people that were met by a civilization that was way above them in terms of technology, way above them in terms of numbers, and they held their own. Like, actually, the Aztec, maybe not so much.
Yeah. But didn't the Japanese get invaded by the Mongols?
According to that game, which I've never heard of, but apparently. But the Japanese were invaded by the British, and they drove them out, and the Americans.
Yeah. I know at one point that Japanese actually made landfall in Korea, and apparently it was a mess. Like, this was before World War II. Like, there's a samurai, like, I think, like, maybe 500 samurai managed to land in Korea.
Ooh.
And there was a massive war, and basically a village was destroyed, and 50% of the Korean army was wiped out.
Should have made Yu Sun Shin a general instead of an admiral.
I think this was before him. But it was, like, just massive disaster, basically, in, like, Korean history. And then after that, whenever there was an invasion or, like, a problem, the royalty was always terrified that as the Japanese had landed again.
Yeah.
Because it was so devastating the first time the Japanese made landfall.
But what I like is not them being invaders, but them being like, it's like Europeans come with their...
So it's like China's history of trying to take over that country.
Vietnam?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like invaders come with their guns and their like military tactics and their massive armies.
Yeah.
And the Iroquois are like, okay, we can take them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're equals. And then the Apache are like invisible, lightning fast, like super Mongols.
Yeah.
Like, there was
super Mongols.
Well, like I think it was the Apache where there's that story where the guy's like, he's walking with an Apache and he's like, so where were you guys hiding? Like, I've been all over these hills and I've never found a cave or whatever. And the guy's like, okay, close your eyes. And he's like, all right. And then open them in like 30 seconds. He's like, okay. Opens his eyes and they're like in the middle of this wasteland with like nothing. Like there's a couple bushes and he's like, open your eyes. And he looks and he's gone. Like if the guy had run like at a dead sprint, there's nowhere to hide. And he's like, what? Where are you? And he stands up like right beside him, just like covered in dirt and like a shrub on his head sort of thing. Just like, it's like, that's why you couldn't find them. Like these guys are like ninjas.
They're like PETA.
PETA. Not the environment, not the protection for
like
animals.
The bread,
thing.
but
the guy, like the guy from Hunger Games.
Yeah, he painted himself.
Yeah, and they were, I think it was the Apache as well that were like abused. Like they were basically what do you call that? Like in a video game where you exploit, like they were exploiting mechanics. Like where they would attack Americans and then run to Mexico, and then like attack Mexicans and run to America, and just like
this with the borders there.
Yeah, it's like you can't get us.
I'm on the like when we would fight and then run to the kitchen to escape retribution.
Yeah,
no fighting in the kitchen.
Like, and the Sioux are like, it's like, what are these things? Horses? Okay, let's figure them out. And then they like become the best horse riders on earth, besides like the Mongols.
Oh, I remember a story. I don't know where it was, but basically they traded them horses, And then they came back and they traded them more horses. And I'm like, man, these guys really like horses. And that's like, hey, what happened to all those horses we gave you? And the guy's like, oh, we love them, so tasty. But like they've been trained horses with this group forever, and then they like found out they were just eating them, and the horse traders were horrified because they're like treating them high stock like good work horses and like riding horses. Like, oh yeah, those things are really tasty.
Like they train some sort of like horse up and
yeah.
Oh man. But
yeah, they're always super eager to buy horses from them as well, and then it's just.
And I also have this form of like disappointment that when Cortez attacked the Aztec Empire, they were at like 5% capacity. Like, can you imagine like the
million?
Like the
50 million.
I think there was like 100 million people in the New World.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many the Aztecs had.
I thought the Aztecs was like the biggest population.
They were the biggest.
Like I thought it was around 50 million.
I don't know, but even if it was like 3 million or something, just like here is an empire the size of the like bigger than or equal to the size of the Spanish Empire.
Yeah.
Like meet us instead of like here is the dying remnants of an empire beset by civil war and their enemies.
Yeah.
Like just man, it's such a weird thing to think of like as a missed opportunity, but
well, that's like an alien invasion. Like one of the worries about alien invasion or even alien visitors is like one of them sneezes on us.
Yeah.
And then like we get super space AIDS or something.
And then when the aliens come back like 150 years later, we can't have a cool fight.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think should wrap it up so I can get some stuff done.
All right.
If that's all right with you.
Yeah, same.
All right. Cool.